You received a call from an inmate at the Department of Corrections. This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up.
Well, hello, Tanya. I don't think I've heard from you before. Ah, yes, a good friend of both of us, I assume. Yep, yep. She's a good person, and she's working really hard to make her life a little bit better. And I'm not going to argue with that. That's the main goal here in life. Well, good. I'm glad to see that you're working on that kind of goal, and it's a good one. You want to get out, and you want to stay out. And in the state of Washington, they're working on ways to improve conditions for you, and I give them kudos for that. So fight the good fight, stick with it, and hopefully you'll get some good results in the end. Ah, yes, Natalie Holloway. Yeah, that's uh, that's a story I've been watching for years. It just broke my heart that she disappeared and what the family went through. But I am so happy that they're getting some closure on this, and I hope we get good justice. There's death is a part of life. It's going to happen no matter what, no matter how old you are, young you are, what you do, what your race. It doesn't care. Death is quite possibly one of the most unbiased entities in the universe. And but murder, that's one thing I want to avoid, especially if it's over things that are just temporary. You get upset over somebody because you didn't get your way, kill them. Or if you fallen on hard times and you want some extra money and you go into a person's house to gather some objects and steal some stuff and wind up killing a person. Or if the person rings your doorbell and you're scared, or if you get in the line of fire of a police shootout. There's a lot of different things out there that just can be avoided. And but human nature, that's one of the things that fascinates me. And the more I understand about that, the easier it is for me. I have a few people in prison that are sharing their stories with me directly, and then there's those that like Michael Bray. He's sharing short stories that are just a little snippet of his real life experiences, and that gives me some insight into his mentality at the time these crimes were committed. Yeah, I know. And in your case, you you weren't born to go out and wreak havoc. You're not a violent offender, and only you understand why you did what you did. But let's face it, everybody knows the consequences. You didn't get up one morning and said, "I'm going to commit a crime and I will not be caught and I will not go to prison." That's just an unrealistic goal. You have to assume
You have 60 seconds
that you
remaining.
will be caught. And that's one of the things I like about a cold case. It shows that this disappearance, this girl, nobody knew what happened to her, and people didn't give up. They kept searching, they kept hounding, and they found somebody who confessed. And it doesn't mean he's guilty. And I'm not going to sit here and say that he's a terrible, evil person because of it. Something went on in his mind, and he says he's not the
You
same
have
person
30
he was
seconds remaining.
back then, but we just have to give him the benefit of the doubt. He confessed, and the family get some type of closure. Hopefully, that's the case, and that this is a done deal, and he's just not trying to take the blame since he has nothing to lose and help the family. But one day, we may find out what really happened. But for
Thank
now,
you for using Inmate Call. Goodbye.
well, hello, and welcome to AQS Inmate Call. I am your host, Joel Wilborn, and in this episode, I want to discuss something that was just recently in the news about the disappearance of Natalie Holloway. And the events behind this are sad because this girl goes off. She's celebrating life with her friends. She wants to go out and have some fun, which is something we all should do, especially someone who's 18 years old to get to go off and get away for a little while. And then she disappears. And we can uh, go by the story that was told. A man said he murdered her and dropped her body in the ocean. And, the family who's been looking for her for 18 years says, now we know what happened. But, they were beginning to move on, a lot of the folks that weren't directly involved. And then, of course, you get up each morning and you want to talk to people and you want to read reports and check on things to see if there's been any development. Maybe a article of clothing or a personal item, maybe a cell phone or purse or maybe a necklace or something would have been found, and or maybe an old note or something. But they got something better than that, and that was a confession. And I'm not going to assume that this confession was 100% accurate or legitimate. It's just something that you have to give credit to law enforcement. They pushed and pushed, and he didn't just come walking in off the street and say, I killed her and put her body in the ocean, days after it happened, which would have made him a kinder person and wouldn't have put the family through so much torment. He pretty much had to get caught before he even said anything. And even that could just be that he's knew that there was a possibility he could be charged with this murder. And so he was just doing something. And a lot of people who confess, they'll do that. They'll just say things just so they don't get the full blunt of the investigation. And that's bad for the investigators, because if they had the wrong person and he's just saying, I'm tired of all this, they're hunting me down, they're stalking me, they're following me around, I didn't do this, but I'll end up going to prison for 20 years if I don't say something. And I'm hoping that's not the case, but we got a little bit of something here. So it's, and plus the family's already realized that she's gone. And it would be kind of shocking for her to show up one day and say, I just needed to get away from everything, and you don't need to be doing this. That would be kind of nice, but I don't know. But it's all about closure. And I do like when people stick with something. And it even though locking people up, giving harsh sentences, uh, the community backlash, the criticism, the prejudice that goes with committing a crime, we know that's not enough to prevent it. And you have to demotivate the person to prevent a crime. Once a person sets his mind on committing a crime, there's really not a lot that can stop him. You could have a law that murder is punishable by prison, and they're still going to do it. Or stealing the car, you could get fined and locked away for a decade, and that's not going to stop people from doing it. But if there's a close friend or family member that can talk this person out of it, kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous, where they have mentors that work with the people. And I've read some of their stories. Sometimes they lapse, sometimes they get through it. I've talked to people that said, I've been clean for 10 years, and that's fantastic. You have nothing but compliments for something like that. And that's because they put their mind to quit, and they did it, and they did a good job. And to me, that's a good compliment, and it's a compliment worth sharing with the individual. So there was a confession, and if he sits down and talks with some professionals, and they come away saying, "Yeah, this really happened," or he believes it really happened, whatever their assessment, you you don't want to uh, bring down a hammer on a person. It's just like, thanks for coming clean. Thanks for letting us know. And whatever circumstances were behind it, he's threatened with years in prison, or he's just tired of the rat race or whatever. Whatever the reason behind it, you should let him know that it's good that he did that. And it's good that he allowed some closure for the family. And maybe if confessions were kind of like the plea deals, if a person sits down with the health professional, says, yes, I did this crime, I feel bad about it, because most people who get in prison, they do feel bad about committing a crime. But if they wanted to confess to somebody, give themselves peace of mind. It's like forgiveness. For forgiving a person who wronged you doesn't help that person who wronged you. It helps you. It helps you move on with your life. It helps you get on with your day-to-day activities. And so he can't be looking for forgiveness because he's the one that committed the crime. He has to be looking to get a little bit of a pat on the back. I'm a changed person, and I want to confess this. There's people out there to do that. There's folks that will send money to the post office because they'll get a letter in the mail where the stamp wasn't postmarked, and they'll peel the stamp off and reuse it, and then they'll just feel guilty about it. And you don't want to say, oh, well, you reuse this stamp, you're going to have to pay a $500 fine, and we're going to put you on probation or something like that. It's just like a thank you. And then we could just do the minimum. If a person commits a murder and they're out on a search trying to find out who committed this murder, and he comes in and confesses, he should be given a break. And then people realize that I get treated better if I confess than if I run and hide. And I have nothing against people who commit a murder and then decades later the police catch them and then they get a really harsh sentence, because not only did they commit this crime and not say anything, allow the family to suffer, but they ran off as if it never happened, as if it's insignificant. And that should be kind of like a part of the sentencing. You confess to the crimes within 30 days or something like that, we'll give you a break. But if you wait years and you try to hide, you should be up for maximum unless there's something you have to offer. Maybe the missing body, and you want to discuss where the body is. And people shouldn't be rewarded for committing crimes, but helping to solve them, that deserves a little bit of a attaboy, but not complete exoneration. And the biggest compliments should go toward the police officers, law enforcement, community, all the people who didn't give up. Think about those situations where a girlfriend is talking to her boyfriend and he's confessing to something, and then she runs to the police. Think about the reward she should get. And think about the people that clean out an attic and find evidence, trophies from murders, and who confess and say that found these in the attic, and law enforcement discovers that this person's father was the serial killer or something. Information from the public is very important and can be extremely helpful in catching people. Natalie Holloway, she's gone. She's no longer with us. She can never live the type of life that her family had hoped she was going to live. Death is something that's going to happen no matter what. And so she was 18. It doesn't matter if she was 5, if she was 88, or even if she was 162. Death is sad because you get used to these people in your life and then they're gone. And her pain, her sorrow, any worries, stress, they're gone. So she's at peace, and that's good. And now the people that were left behind, now maybe they can be at peace. And so I'm happy for the family, and I'm very pleased that law enforcement kept at this and finally caught up with this. This is good. And I hope in the future we'll work on ways to prevent crime instead of building new prisons and making new laws and increasing security. Let's just find out why people are doing these things and see if there's a way we can demotivate that and get them back on the right track and get them to thinking of things that will help them more than the crime. That's just me. Well, I hope you go out, talk to your family members and your friends. This is great discussion for like a camp out or road trip or something. And remember, hug your family, hug your friends. Anything could happen tomorrow. Anything could happen tonight. And at least your last memory would be that you did a good thing. And just imagine living another 50, 60 years with a close friend and thinking, look at all the times we hugged before we parted ways, or the times we'd call each other each night. It's not worthless. Keeping in contact with folks, telling people how much you appreciate them, showing some affection, it's a win-win. Well, go out and have yourself a beautiful day and make wonderful memories for tomorrow.